guys, it's Emily and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be discussing all the books that I read in August and what I plan on reading come September. I just got back from this like 5-month mission school thing, and so because of that, for the past 5 months I've read like pretty much nothing. Now that I'm back, I am ready to just jump back into reading. I already have like pretty much full throttle. So like the 4 books I read this month was this past week, so you know, I'm doing pretty great, you know, if I do say so myself. Let's just jump into it, shall we? So the first book that I read this month was No One But Us by Elizabeth O'Rourke. Pretty much since I got home, I've just wanted to read Elizabeth O'Rourke books. I read 3 of her books prior to the 2 that I ended up reading this month. Her books are just so good. Not the ones I'm going to talk about today, unfortunately, but the ones that I had read prior to this have been just so on it. I've really loved them, so especially I've been like thinking a lot about The Devil in the Deep Blue Sea, which I read last year, and I read, I think, in my Choose Your Own Adventure vlog, I read A Deal with the Devil. It was so good. I gave it 5 stars, which was really surprising because it was like a billionaire romance book and like that's not my thing. I'm not gonna get too into it. If you want to like see more of my thoughts on that, check out my Choose Your Own Adventure vlog. I've also been thinking about the book I read last year, which was the sequel to A Deal with the Devil, which is The Devil in the Deep Blue Sea. I've been very much thinking about that one so much. It has a lot of my thoughts lately. I keep thinking about the 2 main characters of that and their romance and just how like beautiful it is and just like so many of the sweet moments from that book. So I think partly because of that, and I've been thinking a lot about her books and how great they are, I've been like hyperfixating specifically on the second book in that series. I'm just excited I'm reading Elizabeth O'Rourke's backlist because I felt like it. I started with No One But Us because this is technically, to some degree, her first published book, but it's been since rewritten. I think it was originally published as a book called Bloom. I can't find that anymore. Essentially, it follows, let me find the characters' names because I didn't write that down. That would have been an important note to me. They're following this girl named Elle, and her parents, I think, are kind of famous to some degree. And there's like a scandal that kind of happens on so she gets kind of fired from her job. Also, her dad's friend is hitting on her, and didn't really realize it, so that makes her feel weird and uncomfortable. And so she ends up spending the summer with her best friend and her best friend's brother, whose name is James. And she's always harbored a crush on James, but James is like 6 years older than her, but now she's come back into his life. She's still 19, and so he's not super comfy with the idea of dating her, but he is starting to view her in a different way that he has prior. This is okay. I think it's really cool reading her first 2 books because it shows how much, even in comparison to Waking Olivia, which was her 3rd book, how much she's grown as an author, which is so significant, might I say. Waking Olivia is just like a whole another kind of book. It's so good. It's so much better. Like, I think once I read these 2, I'm like, wow, Waking Olivia is just how much. Anyways, these 2 were not super great. This one was just kind of okay. There was a lot of just like petty drama and a lot of scenes that felt super repetitive. I noticed that in her first 2 books, a lot of scenes were just kind of repetitive to drag the story on. Like, a lot of them were accomplishing the same sort of goal, the same sort of outcome kind of just kept happening over and over again, and not in a way that the plot was being driven forward at all. And I'm not saying that like every scene in a book necessarily needs to be like the biggest, most monumental, like life-changing thing, but I don't want to feel like I'm reading the same scene over and over and over again. And I kind of felt like I was reading the same scene over and over and over again, and there was a lot of just like petty drama for the sake of having drama almost. The romance was just kind of okay, and I think that mainly had to do with James, and not to say like, oh, if I'm, 26 having, has he 20, I think he was 25 actually. 25 having a crush on a 19-year-old, that's necessarily the most okay thing. But also at the same time, he was like harping on it with other guys, being like, hey, like, you're way too old for her, like, don't do it. And like, the thing is, like, I think if she was 20, like, I probably would have viewed it differently too. Like, and maybe he would have viewed it differently too. I don't know. Where you see age gaps. Age gaps in fiction kind of get a little bit like, get some leeway from me. Kind of like how I view cheating in like fiction. Like, if like the main character and love interest are cheating on like one of the main character or love interest significant others, I can look over it a little bit more in books than I would in real life. In real life, I obviously don't support that, but in a book I can like look over it because it's fiction, that kind of thing. Similarly with age gaps, sometimes. Not always. Sometimes age gaps are just like, no, this is a little too predatory, like this is actually coming off really creepy and weird. Sometimes that's not my thing. I don't really reach for the age gap trope though. I mean, it depends on like your comfort level with that. And in comparison to like a lot of other age gaps, I don't think this one's like super huge. But it's the fact that I think she's 19. That's like kind of an iffy age. But I don't know. I mean, in my mind, that's technically considered an adult. So I'm not like, it'd be different if she was like 16 or something. It's the fact also just that James like harped on it so much. He was kind of harping a lot on like other guys who would like hit on her, being like, ew, dude, that's gross. Like, she's 19. Like, don't do that. But then also like, telling himself like, this is really gross that I actually have a crush on a 19-year-old. Maybe like I shouldn't do that. Like maybe that wouldn't be a good thing. And I feel like even that could have been rectified if like maybe there was like a time jump or something, and like, oh, because then she is like a lot older, and so it does feel more okay. I don't know like where the time jump would fit, and that would make the story look a lot different, but I think that might have actually been more beneficial to the story had there been a time jump. Even if like they'd kissed and he was like, that was really weird, maybe I shouldn't have done that, and taken advantage of her at 19, and then there was like a time jump or something. Maybe something like that, hypothetically. Hear me out. Because then he kind of starts pursuing a 19-year-old after he was saying like how wrong that was. From his standpoint, morally, it just felt kind of wrong. It just felt off to me. Didn't like that. I think I did like them overall together, I think for the most part. Like I think I rooted for them. So they were a good couple. Like they're decent. They're definitely really low on my list of Elizabeth Aurora couples. They're not the worst. That's the next one we're going to talk about. But they weren't great, to be honest. I'm not thinking about them since. My playlist, I keep adding to that though, so I keep finding songs for them. So that's ironic because I gave this book like 3 stars. So I don't know, there's just a lot of songs that I guess work for them. And then James also just didn't really have a lot of a personality. His personality was being in love with Elle. I think there was kind of some stuff going on with him, like he had like some family drama, like his family wanted him to take over the company. And we kind of harped on it a little bit, but not like a whole lot. And I just feel like that wasn't enough to give him a personality. Like that's something he's going through. But in terms of like personality, like what his interests are and like those interests coming out, like I think he could have been a more fleshed out character, and he just wasn't. Especially because we're getting dual point of view. So like the original I don't think had dual point of view, but this one did. So I wish that he had a more fleshed out character. But anyways, I don't want to harp on it too much because it is obviously like her kind of debut that's written, and like even like her second book, like where she kind of started. So like it's not as good if I'm expecting it to be as good as like, you know, her newest stuff. But I also had like incredible debuts. So, you know, this one's not one of those, but that's okay. Anyways, I gave this 3 stars. We're gonna move on. The next book I read was Visions of You by Catherine Cowles. So this is a novella. It's like a prequel to her, I don't know, the really popular series that she's written. I really want to get into Catherine Cowles books because I think I might like them. I've heard like, I don't know, her plot sounded really interesting. I feel like whenever she has a new book coming out, I'm like, this sounds really interesting to me. This sounds actually really cute. And I want to get more into romantic suspense. I think it's a genre I could definitely enjoy. This is like another brother's best friend sort of thing. This one was better. This follows Lex and Wes. It's like a brother's best friend type of thing. So I think he's like, I don't know, he's someone that like, is he a detective? He's somewhere I think in the police force or something. And so she's been like posting like videos of herself singing online, but she's kind of attracted the attention of this like stalker kind of guy. And so her best friend recruits her brother to be like, hey, Lex is like a stalker, could you like maybe put an end to that? And so he's kind of brought back into town, and through forced proximity she kind of fall for each other. They already kind of had like mutual feelings for each other. They seem pretty close, and so now this is kind of giving them permission to act on their feelings. So it was really short. I think my only complaint, I gave it 4 stars, but my only complaint is that I wanted more of them. It's hard to complain about that when obviously I think this is obviously meant to be a novella, but like had this been like a full-fledged novel, I think I would have really liked it too. I did really like the characters. I liked seeing them get together. It's really solid to get me into Catherine Cowles and make me want to read more of her books. I don't think I added to my TBR, but it is on my, and I like for this video, but because I had to narrow down my TBR because I made a really long list of like all the books I wanted to read, and it was way too extensive to put in one video, and I just didn't want to do that. So I cut it down for like what I'm telling you in this video, but I have a lot of reading plans essentially. That is one of them. It's on, I have KU at the moment because there was like a sale going on. So I will hopefully read that next month. The first book, whatever it was called, Whispers of You or something like that. But this is solid. It was 4 stars. I liked it. Would recommend. And it's free, so you can like, I think you have to sign up for the author's newsletter or something. You can get like the audiobook for free too, which is how I listen to it. So highly recommend. It's free. The next book I read, I have with me, I have the my library book, but it's Too Wrong to Be Right by Melanie Johnson. So this is a book. It's following a girl named Kat, and she just got dumped by her trash boyfriend, who his name's Tad. He decided to move to Canada to like be a host on like some reality dating show or something like that. So because of that, she's kind of left in the lurch with his hedgehog, and she's kind of not given up on love, but she just feels like she's looking for it in all the wrong places. That every time that she chooses somebody for herself or is attracted to someone is kind of being based on like a fully like physical, like lust kind of based attraction. And so she's like, I don't trust myself. I'm gonna go for somebody who's like totally opposite of what I typically look for, and maybe like that'll help me find the one. She's also trying to feel left behind because her 2 best friends are like in really serious relationships, and she just doesn't feel like they have time for her anymore, and things are changing a lot between them, and she kind of just feels left behind. So that's when she meets Mick at his funeral home when she's, I think, doing something for a client there, I want to say. She meets a guy named Mick, and he's a little quirky, goofy, fun, but he also feels like he's the second choice pretty much everywhere he goes to his brother. He's a parrot. Yeah, the two of them meet, and so even though there's like this initial attraction between them, she's like, hey, can we be friends? Because she's worried that she's attracted to him so fast, and she's like, I don't really want to act on anything super duper fast because of all the reasons I just said. She starts hanging out with them as friends, kind of feels inclined to be attracted towards his brother, but also just because like he seems right for her, but she can't fight this attraction that she's feeling towards Mick. So I really like this book. I feel like they were able to develop the like strangers to friends to lovers really well. Even like with the initial attraction they felt for each other, I feel like it made sense why they didn't act on a relationship right away, given what Kat's whole growth is throughout the story. I think that really made sense for their characters, and like even though you knew they were attracted to each other, you understood really well why they weren't acting on it. So I think that made sense. Well done. I've been wanting to read this book since I think last year. I put it on my shelf of like my 2023 most anticipated. So I've been excited to read it, and then I decided to pick it up on a whim because I wanted to read it for a while. The cover's pretty cute. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this book, but I wanted to check it out. See if it was as good as I thought it was going to be. It was pretty good. I get 4 stars. I enjoyed it a lot. I really like Kat as a character. I feel like her struggles were really relatable. Like feeling left behind when like a lot of people who are especially like close to you are in relationships and you're worried about being left behind by them. I think that's just like a relatable struggle that a lot of like adults face, especially like in their 20s and as they're growing up. So I think that was really relatable. I really liked that element. I liked her character growth, and just like learning not to like rush into love. Like, you know, it's gonna find you, but you don't need to rush in to find it or feel pressured like you need to be in that place now. You know, this is a romance obviously, so she's gonna be in that place at the end of the book. And I really like Mick's love interest. I don't feel like he was your stereotypical kind of love interest guy, because I think sometimes after a while like their love interests kind of start fitting archetypes and they're not like characters of their own. They're not unique. And I don't think like he was the most unique character ever, but I feel like he definitely stands out a little bit to some extent. So I like that. I also like the hedgehog. The hedgehog was a fun part of the story. I think it was all really good. I would recommend this one. I give it 4 stars. It's not like my favorite book in the world, obviously, but I really enjoyed it. So I think it's a solid read, and I would recommend it to people. And last but not least, we have Undertow by Elizabeth O'Rourke. So this was the worst book I read this month. I gave it like a 2.5. Originally it was gonna be a 2. So, and then I was kind of between a 2 and a 3 for like the second half of the book. But I really think, so 2.5 I think. This follows this girl, her name's Maura, and she goes, or used to go to like her grandparents' house this summer. Her parents kind of just like built on her, was like, have fun there. But while she's there from childhood, she meets this boy named Nate, and they're like childhood best friends, and then they start dating, but something happens, miscommunication, you know, ensues, and they've since broken up and haven't spoken to each other since. So now it's years later, and Maura just started seeing her brother's best friend, Ethan, I think his name was, and they've been going out, and she's going back to like their summer house where like her parents are like insisting she marry this guy and just have babies with him, and she's like, that's not really the life I actually want to live. For one, I want to pursue being a lawyer and not be a stay-at-home mom. Nothing wrong with that if you want to do that, but just like she doesn't want to do that personally, and everyone in her life is just telling her she's gonna get married super fast, and she's like, we just started dating, calm down. But while she's there, she ends up running into Nate again, and so they have to face like their prior problems. And so a lot of this, like, I think if I was just pitch this book, obviously, I think even when I did read the synopsis of this book, I was like, this sounds fun, this sounds up my alley. It's like a friends to lovers story, given like every summer after vibes to it, or Summer I Turned Pretty vibes even. The relationship in the flashbacks, we kind of get that at the beginning of the book, so they tried to develop, you see the full story before you actually see them reunite. I don't necessarily think that was a bad choice. However, I do think we could have spent more time developing that, because I think the friends to lovers part kind of just came out of nowhere. A lot of the scenes we saw with Nate, he was being very alpha male, very possessive, or very mean. Like, there wasn't the nice, cute scenes, I think, of Nate to make us like him enough as a love interest. And I wish we kind of had more of that. It just felt like he was very possessive of her in a way I just did not like, didn't appreciate. The relationship kind of felt very like lust-based, sex, whatever. So the second half of the book, I was rooting for them in a sense, but it's more so because Ethan sucked so much that like obviously I wanted them together, and her family sucked so much, so obviously I wanted them together. So I mean, at least he's not the worst character in the book she could have ended up with, I suppose. But there's, I'm sure, better options out there for her than Nate. He's not my option. That's all I'm saying. He did get, I want to say, like, we got to see more of him. I think more of his personality kind of come out in the second half. Somewhat of his nice side, but not really. Like, it's just his kind of flirty side, his like possessive alpha male coming out again, I guess. But not in an attractive way, not in a nice way. I just didn't really like him as a character. So I rooted for them because he was better than Ethan. I didn't want her with Ethan. And clearly she liked him a lot more than Ethan, but as far as actually rooting for them to be in a relationship and don't really care about the romance. If I had to choose between Josh from The Devil and the Deep Blue, Josh from A Devil and the Deep Blue Sea or Nate, Josh would win by a landslide. There'd be no, like, there's just not even, like, Nate's not, like, out of the picture at this point. Because, like, Josh would be a lot higher up there if that's, you know? So, it could have been written a lot better, even just a way for these two to come up and complement each other, because I don't necessarily have to be attracted to the love interest to, like, root for a relationship, obviously. I don't think that's how the romance genre works, but I want to root for them to be together. See what I'm saying here? So overall, I don't recommend this one. I would just skip this one entirely, to be honest. If you are going back and reading Elizabeth O'Rourke's backlist, I mean, if you really want to know and really want to read it just for yourself, I'm not going to tell you not to, but I'd recommend skipping it. We're gonna move on to my episode read. I got back into episode. I got kind of really hyperfixated on that. I only read one book fully, so we're just gonna talk about that one, and that is called Grow a Boyfriend. So this one is about this girl, and she's about to elope with her boyfriend because her family is like, her dad, specifically her dad. I think her mom died or something. I don't remember what happened to her mom, to be honest. But her dad is like the owner of this like prank company, so they like sell a bunch of like gag gift kind of toys, sort of things. And she kind of popular and famous because of that, because he's a really famous guy. But she just really doesn't want to be a part of that anymore, and she wants to go marry her poor boyfriend, who's not actually poor, but like poor in her father's eyes. So her father doesn't really approve of their relationship, and so she's ready to go elope with him and move away from all of this. But that is until she has her bachelorette party. At a bachelorette party, her friends mistakenly hire a magician instead of like a stripper like they meant to. So the magician like forces this like grow a boyfriend gag gift on her that like her dad made, only like instead of going into materializing into this like inflatable boyfriend thing, when it falls into her pool, it actually grows into a real life boyfriend, and now she is stuck with this man who is insisting that he's her boyfriend, and she's like, no buddy, I actually have a fiance, I'm getting married, like back off, you're not my boyfriend. But he's kind of like insistent, and not only that, like wants her to be happy, because he's like, I'm just created to make you happy. He's kind of starting to dig into her boyfriend a little bit, and see, you know, if he is who he says he is, kind of thing. So anyways, that's the plot of this book. I am all caught up with it currently. It's not complete yet, but I am caught up with what has currently been released, and I'm excited to continue on. Whenever the author releases more episodes, I'm excited to play it more. I'd recommend this one. It's just like a solid, fun, cute story. I was really invested in it. Like, I pretty much played it whenever I got the chance to. I like the characters a lot. I'm excited to see where it goes and what else is going to happen in the story, or how they're going to get together. It's a solid, fun time. So if you like episode, I recommend this one. It's cute. I think the only thing is obviously their boyfriend character doesn't have a personality, but that's also kind of the point. Like, I'm hoping that like he starts to become more fleshed out as a character, because obviously our protagonist is really fleshed out. Like, I think we know her wants and desires really well, but we don't really know that of him. But obviously, like, his whole purpose, he's not a porpoise. His whole purpose is that he was created to be her boyfriend. So obviously that's the only thing driving him. But I hope that, like, cause he's kind of, even though he's still like a boyfriend kind of thing, that he'll still like grow and get a more fleshed out personality, and like we kind of get to learn more about him, or that he even just gets to learn more about himself. I'm hoping that kind of comes into the story. I don't know if it will, but it was pretty solid. I really enjoyed this one, so would recommend it. So now moving on to the books currently on my to be read list. These are the books I'm kind of just like currently eyeing that I want to get to, because I did a whole extensive TBR thing and it was way too long, and I don't think I'm actually going to get to all those books this month. But yeah, starting with the books I'm currently reading. First we have the Storybook of Legends by Shannon Hale. So this is part of the Ever After High series. I am currently rereading it for a video I am working on, which hopefully will come out in September. I'm hoping so. I'm trying to get back into YouTube, and I'm trying to start uploading more consistently. I think that's something I really want to pursue a lot more, and to get my channel in just a general better place, and be more serious about it, because I've kind of pursued it as a hobby for a while, but I would like to pursue this more long term. I'm currently, I think, over halfway. I'm on page 176. So I've been reading this over the past few days. It's very like quick and easy to like fly through. It's a reread for me. I read it twice now, and I'm hoping to also maybe pick up the second book this month, because I never actually continued on with the series. So hopefully I can do that. But essentially, if you don't know what Ever After High is, it was a doll line for a while, and also a like web series. I think it's just a web series. I think it's on Netflix though too, so I don't really know. Ever After High follows the children of fairy tale characters. So in this book we are mainly following Raven and Apple. So Apple is the daughter of Snow White, and Raven is the daughter of the Evil Queen. So Apple is very excited to, yeah, essentially like in this world they have to follow in their parents' footsteps when they go to Ever After High. They sign this book that's saying, hey, I'm going to be the next Snow White, or hey, I'm going to be the next Cinderella, to retell the story, to keep the stories like alive in the real world so their stories don't go poof. But Raven is the daughter of the evil queen, and she's like, you know, I'm just gonna pass on that evil thing. Like, I don't really want to do that. I don't really want to be an evil person and then be like told to live in doom and gloom for the rest of my life, and that's the sacrifice I have to make, because that's not really who I am and that's not who I feel like I am. So I just want to do that. So she's trying to find a way she can get out of signing this storybook without causing harm to the people in her story, because the thing is, if she doesn't sign this book, her and her story and like everyone in her story will go poof. At least that's what they've been told. So she's trying to see if anyone has ever like not signed the story and like book and like what's happened to them. And so they're trying to uncover that mystery. So I'm like a little over half-ish. I'm over halfway. I'm like 58%. So I'd like to finish it today if I have the time to do so. If not, hopefully soon here. But I'm excited to just continue on with the series, but I'm currently reading it for a video that I'm working on. So I'm excited to read more of it. And also just continuing on the trend with reading Elizabeth O'Rourke books, I'm currently rereading Waking Olivia. So currently the books I'm reading are rereads for me. But Waking Olivia follows this girl named Olivia who is at a new school and joining their cross-country team. The thing is, she kind of got into some trouble in her old school, and so she's kind of viewing this as like a second chance, but she doesn't want to mess it up. Problem is, she's also like sleep jogging in the middle of the night. She's gone through like a lot of like trauma, and so she wakes up like randomly in the middle of the street somewhere because she was running in her sleep. She also tells her coach this, which her coach doesn't quite believe her. He's kind of like, the heck, what do you mean you're running in the middle of the night? And then catches her doing it and realizes, oh yeah, she's telling the truth. This is not, you know, this is a legit concern. And so he tries to like kind of help her through this, but like through this like forced proximity circumstances, and just like they start connecting on like a deeper level, and maybe in a way that a coach and a student probably shouldn't connect. It's really good. Honestly, I was talking about it a bit earlier. This is my, like, no longer my least favorite Elizabeth O'Rourke book, so congratulations. I gave it a 4.5, I think, when I originally read it, so we'll see if I decide to up it to a 5, give it a 4.5. I don't know, but it's really solid. I really like Elizabeth O'Rourke's writing, and this one's just, like, so much better than her prior 2 books. I'm excited to read more of it. I mean, I obviously know where the story goes, but just get back into, like, the Elizabeth O'Rourke I know and love, so I'm excited to read more. I, like, just started this, so I'm not too far into it yet. Then we have 2 other books that I would like to reread this month, because I think I want to reread the rest of the series, or not actually reread the rest of the series for most of these. I actually want to complete the series because I haven't for most of these. The first we got is The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan, so this is the first book in the Percy Jackson series. So trying to make my way through like actually completing this series for once in my life, because I never actually completed the Percy Jackson series, and I would like to move on to like all of Rick Riordan's other books, but I've only read the first 2. So, and also the show came out back last year, I think in December or something like that, and I started watching it, but then I just wanted to reread the books. So I'm gonna do that first, because now I just don't have a timeline to watch the show. And then yes, we also have City of Bones by Cassandra Clare. So I made a video, I think, was it 2 years ago now, where I read this for the first time, and I was like, I'm gonna make these videos where I'm like consistently updating you like every 100 pages, and like it's a whole vlog where I'm just reading this one book. But the thing is, my whole purpose of that was like, oh, I can refresh my brain so I can remember what happened in the past book, so I can just watch that video instead of going back and rereading it. But I've decided I'm going to go back and reread it anyways, because that's just the person I am. I'm still gonna make those videos, but I would like to get back to uploading those. Hopefully monthly is my goal. I think I want to stick with that, just to get into the Cassandra Clare world. So then we have some new releases that just came out recently that I'm excited to read. So first we have Daydream by Hannah Grace. So I read Wildfire last year, and I have plans to maybe read Icebreaker this month. I don't know yet. But Daydream just sounds right up my alley. I think if Hannah Grace is gonna have a banger, or was gonna have a 5-star for me, it's Daydream. I think it's like a tutoring situation, and it's like a sports romance, and maybe it's a hockey romance. I don't entirely know. But I'm excited to read it. We also have Slow Dancing by Rainbow Rowell, which is a book I'm also super excited about. Oh my gosh. I didn't know Rainbow Rowell was coming out with a new book. Why did no one tell me? Not only that, it's a childhood friends to lovers second chance romance. How was I the last to know? How did I not know this? I don't know how I didn't know this, and how this like slipped my radar entirely, which shows you just how off I've been from like the book realm that I didn't know this was even happening. What the heck? How did I not know? But I'm excited about it. I've seen good things so far about this book, and this just sounds right up my alley, and I know that like Rainbow Rowell, like, at least from like the short story I read from her, and like her 12 Days and 12 Nights story, like her friends to lovers story in that, I was like, give me more of these too. I want more of these too. And this just sounds like something that would be like more of that short story in like book form. I'm excited about this book. I am so excited to read this give me it now. I think it's gonna be so good. So good. I'm hyped, okay? I'm very excited, and I can't wait to read it. And finally, we have like 2 books just for my physical TBR that I just like to get to. So first we have A Whole New World by Liz Braswell. So this is the first book in the Twisted Tales series, and it's just a series I've been meaning to get into a lot more. I just want to read this whole series. It sounds really cool, and it's always like posing some kind of like question for like a Disney story. I'm really in the mood for fairy tale retellings right now. I'm in a very Disney mood, if you can't tell. I mean, you can't really tell. These are the first 2 books that are really a part of that. Both of these books are fairy tale retellings, by the way. This is What If Aladdin Had Never Found the Lamp. So yeah, so following Aladdin and Jasmine, and I'm excited to read more of the series. I just want to read the series. It sounds so good. It sounds like a fun time, and yeah, I just want to get into it. So that's all this is. And then finally we have Dorothy Must Die by Danielle Page. I started reading this before I left, and I was really intrigued by it. I was having a fun time with it, and then I put it down for like 5 months. So I am back. I'm returned to this book. I'm still in the mood to read it. Thank the Lord for that. I'm excited to read this. It's like essentially a Wizard of Oz retelling, but in this story, Dorothy is evil, and the main character has been taken to this world, and so now she has to go and defeat Dorothy. And I'm so excited about it. I read like a bit of it, and I was reading it in audiobook form, but I didn't like it. Like, not that the audiobook was bad, I just felt like I was rushing through it too much, and I was like, there's something really special about this book, and it was really, really good, and I think I just want to take my time reading it. I have the second book on hand too, so I can like read it as soon as I finish this one, if I so choose. Those are the books that I read this month and what I plan on reading next month. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to give it a big fat thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more of this lovely face. And I'll talk to y'all soon in a new video. Goodbye!